Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We've spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we can have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Now, finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life. Now, sit back, turn up the volume, smash that follow button, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hey, Pathfinders, and welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and I'm so glad to have y'all here today for a very special interview. I met this woman at a real estate investors meetup in Fayetteville, Georgia, and once I sat across the table from her, I was like, wow, she's got a story to tell. We have to get her on the podcast. So Tiffany, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to On Purpose Investor. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, Eric.
When we first started talking, I kept asking question after question after question because you said one thing and I was like, what? Okay, I got to know more. What? Okay. So let's get into this easy. Let's get into this nice and slow so our listeners can really follow the path here. Let's first start off with, what do you invest in?
Okay, so I invest in manufactured homes or mobile homes, or some people still call them trailers, but on land. So the difference in my business model is we're investing in mobile homes that are on land that are viewed as real property.
Now, are these mobiles, are they attached to the land or are they separate title?
It's funny you say that. Typically we buy with them attached to the land, meaning the title has been retired. So there aren't two titles. A mobile home is kind of like a car. It has the same title you may hold to your car. There is a title to a mobile home. Once it's on land, you as the landowner have the option to either retire it, which means basically attaching the land and the mobile home together, or you can keep the two separate. We have found that it's best to, and that's why I say it's funny, because recently we've come across some where the title of the mobile home and the title of the land are separate, and that's not ideal if you want to resell. So to answer your question, the mobile homes that we're buying on land are attached to the land. The title has been retired.
Okay. And what are you doing with these mobiles? Are you turning them into rentals? Are they short-term rentals? What are you doing with these mobiles?
No, we are just flipping them actually. We're doing very minimal rehab. And then we're putting them on MLS. So we are just flipping these mobile homes on land.
Is there seem to be a pretty good market for that out there?
Very great market, because the price point is much cheaper than a single family home. So you have buyers who, are looking for affordable housing, and maybe we tend to a lot of our buyers, I will say 95% of our buyers are contractors actually, who have a great deal of cash and they're buying mobile homes, because typically our mobile homes are on a decent piece of acreage, like at least 1 acre. So if you're a contractor and you have a lot of stuff and you want to store trucks or equipment, it's ideal. So that has been our buyer 95% of the time.
So I know when we first started talking at that meetup, I was like, that's so crazy. I grew up in a single wide trailer, and we got a promotion in a home when I was like 7 or 8 years old. We moved from the single wide on this part of the property to a double wide on this part of the property.
That's an upgrade.
Yeah, and we were kind of making that connection of, your husband also grew up in a trailer, and to go from, a lot of people put the stigma on trailers and mobile homes, and the stigma is, the trailer trash, or you're in a certain socioeconomic status by being in a mobile or a trailer. And I really hate that, because it's a shell, right? Every home, no matter what it is, when you break it down, it is just a shell. The people that live inside of that shell are capable of anything.
Yes.
it does not dictate where your life is or where it's going. It is only it is only a shell, right? So to see that you and your husband have able to go from, him growing up in a mobile home, which does usually relate to a certain socioeconomic status, to now you're not living in a mobile home. You are now buying them and flipping them, and
Yes,
have created a business out of it.
yes.
I wanted to just paint that picture real quick for our listeners that, you know you may be, our listeners, you may be in a situation right now where you live in a certain place, in a certain area, in a certain type of home, in a certain type of situation. Don't let that dictate your future,
Mhm.
because just like me, and just like the Carlyles, that doesn't dictate where you can go in life. They have absolutely shown that. And we're going to get into this in a minute when it comes to, how to just gain intentionality with your life, but you can change the projection and the course of your life, and don't let your current situation define that. So I just wanted to say that, because I think it's so important for people to hear.
Yeah, it's so important. And I had preconceived notions, like, me and my husband have been married 13 years, and we met in college. Just so happens that we went to the same college as you and your
That's
wife.
right.
But met in college, and when I learned that, he grew up in a trailer, I didn't look at him differently. But I had preconceived notions until I got in this business, and I'm telling you, you meet people from all different walks of life. Um, just, I met wonderful people in this space, in this industry. So I agree with everything you just said.
So where do you invest? Do you only invest local, or do you go out?
So we invest all over Georgia, and right now we're actually entering the South Carolina and Arizona markets. I will say that inventory compared to single family homes, there is not as much volume. So
Mhm.
typically, if you've been in the space for some time, and I know some people who will stay in the same state and they invest, their niche or niche is in maybe 55 and over mobile home parks, and they actually invest in someone else's park, or all family parks, which, can have adults, children, everyone. So I have found, some individuals who will stay in their kind of geographical location. But we found, because we're buying on land, there are only so many mobile homes on land. So we are having to expand outside of the state of Georgia.
Gotcha. Have you found that to become difficult when it comes to marketing to those, or do you already have a system set up here in Georgia that you're just like copy paste?
We have a system. So my we have 4 children, and they're our primary focus. Our family is our primary focus. So because of
Amen to
that,
that.
this year I was very yeah, yeah. Our family is definitely our primary focus. So we structure our business around our family. So it's very much a lifestyle business. This year, I made a decision. My husband and myself made a decision that we were going to take our business 100% virtual. So we are actually not even seeing these mobile homes in person. We have set up a system where we market, our acquisitions, the buying of the property, our dispositions, the selling of the property is 100% virtual. I do everything from home, either on my cell phone or on my laptop.
I'm huge on the systems. I absolutely love systems, and I love systems that allow you flexibility, that allow you to live the life of your dreams. That's what we teach, is it's dream life. That's kind of the thing that we preach, is, doing everything you can to live your dream life. Now that doesn't mean you don't work, right? A lot of people say, well, a dream life, I'm retired, I'm on the beach and drinking Coronas, but listen, you're going to get very bored with that life. So
Very quickly.
yeah. And that's where we bring in the purpose. What is your actual purpose? So I love that y'all have built these systems to where you can live that dream life simultaneously while still building your business and still have that purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's not really always about money. You are actually doing a big service to a lot of blue collar workers out there that are needing a good, stable place to live, something that is affordable, and you're creating the opportunity for that to happen. Are you going to make some money? Of course. No one does anything for free, right? But you're doing something for the affordable housing situation that we have slowly been in for a long time. But there are a lot of things that are coming out now that the government is trying to do with affordable housing. But I think it's going to be in our private sector stuff that we find that it comes out, because people are innately good at heart. They really are.
Hmm.
I truly believe that. Maybe I'm blind, and maybe I believe in a fairy tale, but I believe people are truly good at heart. Um, so we do something with trying to provide affordable housing as well, where we rent some houses by the bedroom, and we're able to get people living for under $600-700 a month with all utilities included, and that's very affordable. And what you're
Yes.
doing as well, you're not selling, and you tell me if I'm wrong, you're not selling
Okay.
these mobiles on land for 500,000 and up, right? You're
No, no.
probably, I'm just going to guess you're in the 150 to 250 range. um
Yeah, actually, we're
yeah,
in the 150 and below. We're 150
okay.
and below. Yeah.
So that, it seems insane to be able to find a house for that price, right? And not only are they
Yes.
getting a place to live, they're getting land with it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is that is the American dream, right? To live a life of opportunity, and to be able to live somewhere with safety and security, uh, while striving for it. So I love what y'all do. I think it's important, and I think it's part of the solution to this affordable housing stuff that's going on. Hate to I Tiffany loves to say I get on soapboxes, and I do. I get very passionate about something when I'm talking to someone, like something needs to happen. And I
Yes.
love meeting people like you that are making something happen. So just
Yep.
wanted to just praise you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's definitely necessary for people to be able to everybody to be able to achieve the American dream if they desire to do so. And I will definitely say the mobile home space is very affordable, and it does make sense. If you're now, for some, it doesn't make sense anymore to be in a park, and we very much desire to own a park, but the lot rents are getting very unaffordable right now. So for someone to be able to get a piece of land, get a mobile home, if they can keep that mobile home up, because I'll dispel the myth as well. A lot of people, a mobile home is viewed as a car. Cars depreciate, cars lose value, and people view mobile homes in the same way. But if you keep it up, repairs are a fraction of what repairs are in a single family home. You can have it over the course of a lifetime, if you really keep it up. So you're right.
and
Affordable housing is so necessary.
and when you attach that mobile to the land, and if listen, if you're listening out there and you're like, what does that mean? They're attaching a mobile to the land. Listen, Tiffany's going to give some information on how that you can follow her, and she's probably got something out there that tells you about that. And Tiffany has probably studied from other people that tell her how to do stuff like that. But just know, when you attach that mobile to the land, the appreciation of that property is now a combined effort. So the
Yes.
land value is increasing, and like she said, if you take care of it, if you make sure that home stays habitable and it stays, decently looking, it will go up just along with all of your neighbors, even if they all have single family stick built homes, and you're the only mobile on that street. I promise you, you take care of it and you get that mobile attached to the land, you're going to see the appreciation alongside your neighbors. So
Yes.
don't
And
think
it's a very
buying a
easy
mobile.
process.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Don't think buying a mobile means you're just buying a depreciating piece of something, because you're not.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely an easy process. It's literally as simple as, once that mobile home is on land, you have your mobile home title, and you have to reach out to your county. It's usually the tax commissioner's office, and they'll tell you the process. But you're literally, well, what our experience has been, you take it to the tax commissioner's office, you pay $38 per title, and it's retired, and it's now attached to the land. So it's a
And
very simple process. But I do want to warn people, though, because I get calls every week that are like, "Hey, Tiffany, I just want to buy a big piece of land and put a bunch of mobile homes there." That's just not possible. You definitely need to know the jurisdiction zoning laws, because many jurisdictions, they don't want to see a glorified mobile home park. You know, you could have gotten away with that in the 70s and the 80s and even maybe early 90s, but since 2000 they have really buckled down on what they will and will not allow. So that's, just a note for the listeners. So they're not like, oh, Uncle John has a piece of land. Let me go out and, buy a mobile home. You definitely need to know the county rules and regulations.
Yeah, so many municipalities out there are against mobile home parks because of the negative nature of the history of them. That,
Yes.
violence, drugs, all the different things that might go along with parks. Um, it is a commercial endeavor, and it,
Yes.
it must be approached like a business venture. And it
Yes.
and usually those things take a lot of pre-work, a lot of due diligence, a lot of figuring out. So if you're like, oh, I got 25 acres, I'm going to go turn it into a mobile home park, you better be prepared for it to be a 2 to 5 year journey of constant meetings with the council and commissioners, and fighting for your life to get that to be approved.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
all right, let's keep going here. Tiffany, real quick, how did y'all get started? Did you just wake up one day and say, we're going to flip mobiles?
No, we didn't. We This actually was an accident that we stumbled upon. I'll tell our story, briefly. We um we started investing in real estate, and I decided to just focus on one thing. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I am fourth generation. Um my parents own businesses, my grandparents own businesses, my great grandparents own businesses. So had the shiny object syndrome, going from thing to thing to thing to thing. But I always knew my mom is a real estate broker. My dad has developed some commercial real estate. So I always knew I wanted to get into real estate investing. And I took the leap in 2015. My husband introduced me to a friend of his who was a wholesaler, because I will say, my mom being a broker, she deals with on market real estate. Being a real estate investor, in my opinion, is completely different. Like, typically you're going by a different set of rules, a different set of
Yes.
calculations and what makes sense. So although I had that experience of showing houses with my mom and being around real estate, I literally had to start from scratch. So my husband introduced me to a friend who was a full-time wholesaler. He became a mentor of ours and has continued to be until this day. But in
Right.
2015, I made the sole intentional decision to only focus on real estate as a business venture.
Okay.
In 2016, we got two properties. We acquired two properties subject to. Um, I won't elaborate on what subject to means, but those were our first two properties. Were subject to properties, and it did not go well with those. We had some nightmare situations with tenants, and I kind of stepped away for a while. And then we tried to get some properties under contract to flip, and it just felt like things weren't coming together. Fast forward to October 2019, my husband kind of encouraged me. We were expecting our fourth baby. He encouraged me, like, hey, I really think we should get back into the real estate game. I was reluctant, but we ended up sending some direct mail to an eviction list. And a gentleman called us and told us he had 14 mobile homes that he wanted to unload. And at the time,
Dang.
I had no experience. I'm like, oh, when he told me what his asset was, I wasn't gonna call this man back. I'm like,
Mhm.
trailer, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You can't make money off of a trailer. I
Right.
stumbled upon, but me and my husband have this saying that says, look well into the matter. So I'll at least look into it. I won't just reject it. I'll at least look into it. 2 days later, I stumble upon a YouTube video about mobile home investing and realize the profit margins,
Hmm.
and did some calculations. Went to this gentleman and we were able to pick up 4 mobile homes. So,
Hey.
in a very abbreviated version, that's how we got our start.
So you called that eviction list, or you sent out letters to that eviction list. It Opportunity slaps you in the face, and you're like, uh, that sounds awful.
Yes.
And then you say, wait a minute, maybe there's something there. And now, we're 3 years later. Um, and you have absolutely made a big business out of this. How many mobiles are you flipping, a year? Like, how many are you doing?
A year, I would say this is probably like our most serious and consistent year. We're now flipping like 4 mobile homes a month. So this year I've kind of lost count. I wish I could pull up my like profit and loss statements on each one.
Yeah.
But right now in terms of like deals, we have about 4 in rotation a month. And that's acquisition, maybe we have one under contract. We may have one that or two, well, one that we've purchased, one that's about to close. It's always that loop, but we've consistently had 4 in that cycle each month.
That's very impressive. But I want to challenge you and ask you this question. Do you see yourself for 5 years, the next 5 years? Do you see yourself continuing to um, flip mobiles, or is there an end goal here? Are you trying to build up some type of nest egg so that you can put it into something that is going to be all passive?
Yes, definitely. And I always say, well, what is passive? Everything requires a little bit of work. But
Mm-hmm.
um we want a mobile home park. We want several mobile home parks, but I will say our 3-year goal, 3 to 5 year goal is 160 unit mobile home park. If not one, then maybe over about 4 parks. I don't want to get over 4 parks because
Yeah.
each one is a business of its own, but we definitely are building up a nest egg to buy a mobile home park. But do I, there are moments where I get burnt out, and there are times where I'm like, listen, I am. When we were investing in other people's parks, like the 4 we picked up initially, those were in a park, in a
Yep.
corporately owned park. I
Mm-hmm.
was ready to give up. It got the asking price that people were calling. I used to could buy a mobile home move in ready for $10,000. When the popularity hit the mobile home space, we had sellers consistently calling us asking for $50,000 a piece on a mobile
Yeah.
home in somebody else's part where you're paying $400 to $600 in lot rent. So
Yeah.
I was ready to give up at that time. Now that we're in the mobile homes on land space, there's not a I would say the most difficult part to it is there aren't really opportunities to refinance these mobile homes on land.
Right.
I mean, that's why we're just flipping them. The burst strategy doesn't really apply unless you have a private money lender who is
Mm-hmm.
looking for a return over a long period of time.
Right.
Um, but I do I see us continuing this business model.
Okay.
Especially as we enter, unless we tap out every state where that fits our
Well,
criteria.
yeah.
I really like the mobile homes on land model, and I see us continuing to do it. And our goal is to build that out into its own like business that runs without us.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that answered your question.
It absolutely did. I love that you're using this vehicle to later put it into a vehicle that does build that generational type wealth, um, but also continuing this business as well. Because if there's opportunity out there and there's a way to keep building wealth there, uh, why wouldn't you keep going? Especially if you could automate it. Especially if it's something that it's a business that, let's say, your kids are now in their late teens and early 20s, and you're like, hey y'all, listen, here's this business. Y'all are gonna go run that business. Um, Mama and dad don't want to hear nothing. Go
Yes,
run that business,
exactly.
and give them a piece of the pie and teach them how it all works, and coach them along the way. Maybe they're park owners down the road as well, and you've given them the opportunity to create something that otherwise they might never have done. And that's what I love about real estate investors, is that we have the opportunity to change the mindset of our children and our children's friends and the youth, of you don't have to go work a W-2 job to
Hmm.
to build a life, and to build a retirement. Um, you might find it difficult to talk to like college friends or friends that are we call civilians that are not in the real estate investing space because most of the time those conversations are you got a good job, you're investing in your 401k, and then all the all the things that go wrong with like normal life, it's not really part of an investor's life.
Mm-mm.
We work strange hours, we do strange things. When we talk about spending money, we're never really talking about spending $1,000 here, $1,000. We're always talking about spending 50,000 or 150,000. So the amount of money you spend is very disproportionate to the normal conversations. Um, I don't know where I was going with all that, other than I think it's great that you're doing something to build that long-standing wealth, and that your family is a part of it, and that you are a husband and wife team, just like me and my wife Tiffany are. And we hope to do that with our kids. We have one son and one due in about 4 weeks, so we're really hoping to build something like you and your husband have, to where it's autonomous, it's a system, and that our children's lives are forever changed because of it.
Definitely, definitely. My 10-year-old, side note, my 10-year-old, we know a veterinarian down near Fort Valley, and our 11-year-old daughter, she's kind of, saying she's interested in being a vet. So I entrepreneur at heart. I'm like, well, let's get you in the field.
That's
Let's get you
right.
talking to some people. So we took her down
Yeah.
to a vet's office, and she got the tour, and she got to participate in the surgery, and we hung out with her. But so I started asking my 10-year-old son, he's really into nature. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? Well, my husband had taken him, we have a neighbor who owns a campground. And my husband had taken him to this campground, and he's like, hey, this is what he does all day. He checks on his campground, he fishes a little bit. And my son is like, listen, I want some land. I want a campground. He's 10. He's like, I want a campground and I want a fishery. And I'm like, oh,
That's
okay.
awesome.
So just to your point,
Yeah.
this is something that you can definitely pass down to your children, because there are other options. I don't knock W-2. I know some 401k millionaires.
Hmm.
Um, but I think there are, for us, like you said, we need that flexibility.
Yes.
So this makes sense, like I said in the beginning, for our family.
Hmm.
And so that we can spend these years. I remember, and I go on soapboxes too. I'll stop
Yeah.
after this.
Keep going.
I met a seller. She was selling a quadruplex. And at this time, I really didn't know how to negotiate a deal like that. But she
Hmm.
told me, she said, me and my husband bought enough rental properties to be able to raise our kids while they were young. And she told me, she said, because we were able to do that, we've never had issues out of our kids, like behavioral issues, things of that nature. And that stuck with me. And I said, you know what? Me and my husband are going to do the same thing, because I really wanted to raise, my children. And I know that's not as ambitious as, some people who are like, hey, I want $1 billion portfolio. I
Yeah.
really, in these young years, is so delicate, and there are so many moving parts. Um, I just wanted to be here. So
That's right.
yeah,
I share your sentiment. And like when Tiffany and I first got started, we said, why are we doing this? Why are we not going to keep just working our jobs? And we said, well, we have to do this if we want to fulfill our dream of being as involved as we absolutely want to be. Now, that doesn't mean that we're in front of our kids' face 24/7. No, it just
no,
means we have the flexibility. Our
yes,
son goes to a church daycare twice a week for three
mhm,
hours. But other than that, we get to we get to go to the park as much as we want. We go swimming all the time. We get to take them to the zoo, to the aquarium, and we're able to do these things because 4 years prior we had this vision, we had this idea that if we just bought enough rentals, we could replace our job income, and we could have that income from that. And while we're not just going to sit there and stare at our kid all day and just hang out with our kid all day, because we want to be adults too, right?
yes,
We want to build a business too. So we're going to find a way to balance it all. we're going
yes,
to we're going to have, what the biggest thing was the freedom to choose
yes.
how you spend your day. when we said we want to spend as much time as we want to with our kids as possible. That was our big motivation, like why. So let's move into this next section. That is a great segue actually, and it was accidental. But when you first got started, was that your main motivation? Try to elaborate a little bit about what drove you, what inspired you.
And I know you guys probably are gonna get tired of me saying this over and over, but it was our children. And I now at this point I can get deeper into that. So when I had my first child, she was diagnosed with a genetic condition, nothing that you can see on the outside, but she required medication 3 times a day. So I was in college. I met my husband in college. He was in his senior year when we met. He was in his senior year, and I had just started my junior year. I was 20, he was 22, and um, we got married, or we got married pretty quickly. So when we had our daughter, I was still in school. My husband was working a corporate job. So whereas my mindset is, I thought that my trajectory would have been to finish school and then to become a consultant who traveled around the country. We had this baby who had special needs, and I could not put her in daycare. Like, I had to be there to take care of her. That's not the type of medication and the timing that she needed. It's not something that you can put off on another caregiver. So because of our situation, I went back to school, but I was caring for her throughout the day. My mom would pick her up in the afternoon so I could go to class, and then my husband would get her after he got off work. And then we had another baby 18 months later. So I finished school. It took me several more years, but I finished school. But I'm a mom with a child who has a special condition and has special needs. So that thrust me into real estate. I remember my son was about 6 months old, and I read a book. I read a real estate investing book, and I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. But at that moment, I realized, like, this is it, because I knew that me going into corporate was no longer an option. Me constantly traveling as a consultant wasn't going to be the best fit. Could I have done it? I'm an adult. I could have done it, but it wasn't the best fit for our family. So I'm like, okay, how can I generate, honestly, a significant income? I'm not going to sugarcoat it, so that we can have a comfortable lifestyle, so that we can meet the needs of growing children, and so that we could grow wealth and have a savings, and be able to take care of things when it's necessary, and be able to travel, the things that most adults desire. And real estate was my only answer. So that's what thrust me into real estate investing. I'm like, I can kind of do it on my own time. I can kind of self educate, and my family has somewhat of a background in real estate, so I have that support system, and that's what thrust us into real estate.
Yeah, I think when people just, let's say they're scrolling TikTok and they see a story like this show up, and they're like, and you maybe on that video, it's like, I flip 4 mobiles a month and I make enough money, I don't have to work a job. And then they make their decision right there. Oh wow, that's sexy, because
Yes,
money is sexy. But that runs out. It dies off quick when the work shows up, because it's not just I flip 4 mobiles a month and make money and it's just sexy. There's a lot of unsexy stuff that goes with it, which is the work,
definitely.
all the systems, all the things that it takes to set that up. And so what we like to say is, when things run out of fun, when things stop being, just exciting and new, and the challenge presents itself, that's where the why, the motivation, has to be super strong. That's where
Absolutely.
why you got started, that has to be that your tank has got to be absolutely full when you get started. And without a full tank, you're not going to be able to get through those days of, oh crap, I made 40 offers this month and none of them got accepted. And we haven't flipped anything in 4 months, and we're out of money, and I don't know how we're going to pay the bills, but I know this system is going to work, and we're just going to have to struggle for 6 more months, and I know it's going to turn around, and just having that entrepreneurial heart and spirit, but getting through those tough things. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people when they get started in something like this, they're like, wow, that's fun, that's sexy, I want money, let's do it. And then they fail, and then they just like, well, that just wasn't for me.
Yes. The wasn't for me line. Yes.
Yeah. Listen,
Yes.
nothing's for nobody if they don't have the passion to keep going after it.
Yes.
I mean,
Exactly.
do you think football was always for, Tom Brady? I mean, if he never practiced, of course it wouldn't be.
No.
So, uh, God, just another little soapbox there.
No, the
So,
soapboxes are great because you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like it's some hard, grueling days, and what keeps me
mhm,
motivated is, even to this day, I have to go to doctor's appointments, and my daughter autoimmune condition, we had to stay extra careful during the pandemic, and if I were working a corporate job, it would not allow that. So yes, I have. And even like you just said, it may sound sexy. Oh, I'm doing 4 a month. Mind you, I said I started this in 2015. This year that we've gotten to 4 a month. And even this year, we've had months where we entered a bad market. We didn't look at all of the data. We didn't look at the population data. And it was all of the money that we wasted on marketing, all of the calls that I had to take just, on my Saturday, on my Sunday. It's you have to have a motivation way deeper than money to, in my
that's
opinion, to
right.
be successful at this business.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people don't share when they're sharing their success is the struggle. And that's one thing they say about Facebook and TikTok is like or Instagram is that it's a look, it's like a snap view or a sneak peek into someone's success. It's not into all of the things that go on because not a lot of people are going to put on their Facebook or whatnot. Oh man, I just lost $75,000, chasing this squirrel that never existed. No one's gonna post that. What you are gonna
No.
post is I made $1 million in 2021 by flipping mobiles. That I'm not saying these are Tiffany's numbers because I don't have any idea about her numbers, but just the idea of you're not gonna go post that you just wasted a lot of money, but what you are going to post is I went and made a lot of money, right? So it's just looking in and knowing that when you dive into a venture, and if you're listening to this episode, you're right now, and you're like, I want to be like Tiffany Carlyle and her husband. I want to do this. What you need to understand is that it didn't happen overnight. They probably had to educate a lot. They failed a lot, I'm sure, and failed forward and learned from it, right? And it wasn't easy. I promise you. I don't know much about their day-to-day story, but I'll tell you, if I know anything, real estate investing is vicious and it is tough, and you have to be in it for the long haul. And it it takes stamina. It and that stamina comes from your ultimate why, your motivation for why you even getting started. Oh, so Tiffany, I want to go ahead and advance to our next question and get off that
Okay.
soap story. um, so
Okay.
when you first got started, everyone has a preconceived mindset when it comes to time and money. Um, and I just kind of want to dig a little bit into has your mindset on time and money changed, and particularly talking about scarcity and abundance when it comes to time and money.
Oh yeah, definitely. I tell everybody, like, we hear like mindset, 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 and it's trendy, but unless you're really like in business or whatever you're pursuing, mindset is, for me, it's 90%. Like having the courage, overcoming, self-doubt, overcoming whatever things you learn generationally or just growing up, whatever your background, your home environment, your family is like, you take on all their ideologies. And then when you're
Right.
trying to accomplish something bigger than anybody in your family has accomplished, it's a battle. And a lot
Yes.
of times my battle has been against myself, limitations that I put on myself, ceilings that I've created. So I will say in the beginning, I was very fragile. I had that mindset like, oh, and I'll say this, I have a Christian background. So it's like, oh well, this probably isn't God. This probably isn't meant for me. And it's like you just said with Tom Brady, like, yeah, football wouldn't have been meant for him if he never got out there and practiced, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I had to overcome in the beginning, I was just very fragile. Like if an offer didn't get accepted, if I didn't have the money to pursue something in the way that I wanted to. Maybe I had the money to do marketing, but then if I got a deal under contract, I didn't know what to do because I didn't have the money to close, or I didn't have a strong network to sell that property to. I would, give up for some time. So I definitely would say, as it pertains to time and money and just the pursuit of what I desired, I very much had a scarcity mindset and well, maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe, it's not for me, which was an absolute lie. Like now I'm all about numbers. It's like, listen, you put enough marketing out there, somebody's gonna call you.
That's right.
Once they call you, if you know how to analyze a deal and they're motivated, you can get it under contract.
That's right.
There is unlimited amounts of capital available, like so much money, especially now that people are trying to get out of the stock market. There's so much money available, and you just have to keep consistently going. So to answer your question, because we can go to the
Yeah,
left or
I
the right with
know.
this conversation. um my mindset in the beginning was a mindset of scarcity. Even as I began to get some success and make some money, to this day, most of the books I read are about mindset. Most of the books I read are about abundance, and not for some vain, selfish intention. As you go from level to level, there will be more and more battles that you have to fight mentally, and
Yeah,
you have to stay sharp so that you just have, like you said, the stamina to keep going. Because some people would say, oh, you're doing 4 deals a month now, oh, you're so successful in all of these things. I still have lows. I still get burnt out. I still get super frustrated. Right now I'm frustrated. I have a property. I don't want to rehab it at all, and I just needed to sell. It's on MLS right now. I needed to sell. I know that all of the numbers work. Like
that's right.
it's hugely discounted, but I have to wait, and I can't give up,
Right.
and I can't pout, and I can't take it out on my family because it hasn't gone under contract. Oh, it went under contract and then fell out. So to hear, the lows, went under contract this weekend, the next day they pulled out. But I
Yeah.
have to keep going.
When you first get started in any endeavor, you're going to have a preconceived notion, and then you're going to go through a shift of what it really is, and then you're going to have to figure out how you fit within that.
Yes.
And like the scarcity of money, when you first get started in any venture, and we're going to use real estate. So when you first get invested in real estate investing, and you're educating on it, you're going to have to come up off of your pocketbook a little bit. You're going to have to spend money on books. You're going to have to spend money on courses. You're going to have to educate so that you can be successful. And then, a lot of people have a hesitation in that. They're like, why would I give so and so this money to go maybe learn about something that I might do? Well, you're approaching it with the wrong attitude to begin with. Um,
Hmm.
you should probably start asking yourself, why do I give Netflix, $400 a year so that I can waste time? Why do I give, McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, five to $10,000 a year, and that's kind of average what people spend on fast food in a year, 5 to 10. Why do I give them $5 to $10,000 a year just for convenience? You know, when I can cook at home, right? So it's approaching it with the right frame of mind. It's an investment. Um,
Yes.
People often are very scarce with their money for the wrong reasons. I think it's good to be scarce with your money for the right reasons. Saying, well, I can't afford Netflix because I have to educate on what's going to provide me my dream life. I can't afford this because I need to do something that's going to be investing in myself. Um, and moving on to relationship with money, I know when I first got started investing in real estate, $1,000 was huge for me. And I'm not saying it's not still big now, because I grew up where a $20 bill was a pretty cool thing to have. Me growing up, I mean, it was a lot of money, and $1,000 was huge. And now in my wife Tiffany and I's life, we are writing checks that are much bigger than that on pretty much a weekly or biweekly basis, and it's hard to kind of wrap your head around when you first get started in real estate investing on how your relationship with money has to change. Um,
Yes.
it's it has to shift. So, how did your relationship with money change?
I was like you, $1,000 course. What? Paying somebody, I just paid somebody $500 for a 1 hour call. Um,
Mhm.
and that's normal. I spend money on my education every month, whether I'm participating in a course, whether I'm paying somebody for a consultation. I pay to play at this point,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
But in the beginning, I did have a scarcity mindset. Like I would buy a book, okay, I'll buy a book. I'll buy a $10 book. But
Hmm.
or even marketing. I will say it took me years to I will say my I guess success or metrics were slowed down because of me, because of my unwillingness to spend what I needed to spend every month on marketing,
Hmm.
right? Because when you're spending money, and some campaigns, like we keep very detailed key performance indicators, or people who are
Hmm.
already in the industry, KPIs.
Right.
There are months where we spend money on marketing where we may not get a deal off of that campaign, but we have to keep spending. And you'll look back at it and you'll see like somebody got our marketing piece in April and they're just now calling in August.
Yeah.
So I will say in the beginning, I very much had a scarcity mindset, and it
Hmm.
was, penny pinching and is that worth it? And and you end up spending money anyway. You're either going to spend
Right.
it on what you need to spend it on or not, you know.
Yeah.
But I very much had a scarcity mindset, both in spending money, and then later I realized I had a scarcity mindset when making money. I remember when I first started making significant amount of money, I realized how afraid of money I was,
Yeah.
afraid to not do the right thing, afraid of losing it. So I've had a long journey with my mindset and money. Now I would say like I continuously read. I'm always investing in myself, in my education. So now it's shifted and it's healthier. It's not perfect though,
Yeah.
but I definitely have a healthier mindset now when it as it pertains to money.
Right. And that evolution of it all, listeners out there, it does not happen overnight.
Oh,
Um, the change, when people say, "Oh, I'm changing my mindset," um, and I'm going to do it by reading this book, and I'm going to have a different mindset tomorrow. You have to embrace that with several different things. You have to embrace it with daily action. Your actions have to reflect the new mindset that you're striving for. You have to remind yourself, and I do that with daily aspirations. So, or affirmations, I'm sorry. So my daily affirmations are the new version of who I'm trying to become, or they are reaffirming who I have become. So, um, it takes the daily action, it takes reminding, and then it takes constant work to evolve that. So if you're trying to change your mindset to become something else, and my listeners are probably trying to become real estate investors. When you're trying to change that mindset, just like you heard Tiffany say, it's it's she did a mailer back in April and didn't get something back until August. That's 5 months of, if that was your first campaign and you spent the majority of the money you had in your bank account on that, um, it would be very easy to say in month two, wow, no one's called me.
mhm.
This is not for me. there's no way I can keep going. Um, it's hustle, it's continuing to strive for success and not accepting a defeat as what your future state will be. Um, so that the whole mindset thing, it's very much like a continual process. It's a living thing. It's a living, breathing thing where people are, well, what's your mindset on this? Well, I can't tell you because I know where I am right now, but that's not where I'm always going to be. I know where I came from and I know where I am right now, but that's not where I want to be, or that's not. I can't predict where I'm going to be. Um, so I love what you said about how your scarce mindset had to open up for you to see your business flourish and for you to see the success of your business come to fruition. Um, here at On Purpose Investor, our mission is to get our listeners to begin living that lifestyle of hyper intentionality. That's one of the biggest things we preach on is hyper intentionality and to live their life on purpose. So, what could you say that has helped you and your husband and your family to live your life with intention and clarity?
Uh, this is not, I mean, this is my answer. This is not something I wish for anyone, but this is my answer. So another thing that happened when I first had my daughter is I got double pneumonia during the birthing process or right after. I was overhydrated a few weeks prior by a nurse. And because of that, I got double pneumonia. Not only did I get double pneumonia, I was put in ICU on a ventilator. So I was, sedated for a week, just so that my lungs could heal. And I was very close to death. Okay. Very, very, very close to death. I was in ICU and it was awful. It was when I came to, they said that this was the worst case of pneumonia that they had ever seen. Um, so with that being said, that near death experience, and that's why I started with, I don't wish this for anyone. But for me, that near death experience really opened my eyes to, this isn't, life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. You're on the main stage. You have to decide what type of life you want to have, and you have to go after that no matter what. And I'm not just talking about money. Maybe it's stability, maybe it's mental health, maybe it's health, fitness wise. You just have to make a decision, no matter how young, no matter how old. You have to make a decision, and you really have to truly commit to it. And that comes with what we just discussed, mindset, and allowing yourself to have that mindset journey. So for me, intentionality, that gave me this huge lesson, or this huge motivation to be purpose driven and intentional, knowing that tomorrow really isn't promised. Moment by moment, the fact that we're here, online, it's an opportunity. And each day, like we wake up, is really an opportunity. So I'm very, very intentional about all aspects of my life: parenting, marriage, business, my spiritual relationship, my relationship with myself. But I would say for me, what it took was that near death experience. I'm sure that there are other ways. Again, I don't wish that for anybody because it was horrible for me and my family. There may be other ways or other things in your life that you can kind of glean from or recall, or maybe there's something going on currently that can help you be more purpose driven and intentional. But for me and my family, or for me specifically, that incident made me just very, very intentional and purpose driven about just every aspect of my life, because I really understand that, death, it's inevitable for everyone, and because of that, every day that I get, I want to maximize it, like,
That's right.
to the highest extent. So that's my answer.
Tiffany, when you said life is not a dress rehearsal, I got chills all down my body. I'm like, dang, I need to wake up and do even more. You really hit me with that, and hopefully you'll let me quote it and put it on some stuff and get it out with On Purpose Investor. Gosh, that was powerful, and you're so right though. When you can just get honest with yourself and say, you know what? I'm tired of sleepwalking. I'm tired of, just hoping that one day I'll retire. I'm I'm tired of exchanging all of my time for money. You know, just getting real with yourself and saying, you know what? Today's the real thing, and I
I'm
need
on
to
the main
start
page.
doing. That's it. Oh my gosh, that's good. Ooh, you moved me.
Yeah. And
All right.
something that I do to stay intentional, I write a lot of stuff down. But what I've been doing over the last, I would say since 2020, is every month I kind of do a life's business plan. And I personally have a notebook, but it can be on a piece of paper just to keep track of like, where am I going? And then actionable steps of what do I need to do to get there? And I look at it throughout the month, and I like that approach versus yearly goals for me, because if I'm doing it every single month, then it's like, okay, if I was slacking, in August, well, here's September, I'm back at it, I'm writing this plan again, and I'm bringing stuff over from last month, and I have seen more progress from that than any of like my goal setting for the year. Because sometimes when we goal set for the year, we don't look back at it. But if you are doing something, notes in your phone, or a notebook, or audio, sometimes I'll do audio recordings on my phone just to give yourself like a progress report almost. It also helps with intentionality for me.
That's some amazing stuff, and over at so we also host this course, and what we teach in that course is how to do exactly what you're saying, of having those lofty long-term goals, but breaking them down into monthly, weekly, daily action to ensure that you are being intentional with your day, to say that it is in alignment with where I said I wanted my 3 years to be.
Yes.
It's easy to get out of alignment. Just like a car, it needs to be realigned. All right, Miss Tiffany, let's get into our Fast Five. These are our last 5 questions. We're going to wrap up this episode. I sent these to you beforehand just so that you didn't have to try to think on stage. But really looking forward to what you have to say today. So, question number one: what advice would you give to investors who are trying to get started today?
So I really like that question, because I know it can be so hard to get started. Like, I'm not so far removed that I don't remember the beginning. So I always think about like, what would I tell somebody in the beginning? It's really, you know, make a decision to start.
Mm-hmm.
After you made a decision to start, educate yourself, especially if you don't know anything about real estate investing. There are so many different niches or niches in real estate investing that it can be really, really overwhelming. So I say educate yourself. And that can be, I know for me, I spent countless hours on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
Now, YouTube is a lot more popular. And don't get, I am not advising you to get stuck in analysis paralysis, but if you are coming into this, maybe you're in corporate, or maybe you're retired, or maybe you're young and you want to get started. If you have no experience in real estate investing, I would definitely say educate yourself, and work on your mindset. Like, that is, I didn't start working on my mindset until later, but if you can be intentional, whether that's reading books, whether that's going to seminars, whether that's, you know, whatever it is. There's so many resources out there today, but work on your mindset, get an education.
Absolutely.
And then the next thing is figure out what you want your niche or your niche to be. I have a friend of mine who just got into real estate investing. She spent about a year educating herself, and she decided that she wants to go into corporate rentals. And that's a unique model.
That's right.
Everybody, depending on your background, your income, the amount you have in savings, the amount you don't have in savings, your age, it'll all determine what's going to be the best fit for you. But go ahead, after you got your education, decide. Once you've decided this is the type of real estate investment I want to pursue, then
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way to generate leads, whether that's through networking. There are countless marketing avenues you can go down. That includes, drive, just to name a few, driving for dollars, cold calling, direct mail. Decide on how you're going to generate leads and generate them and take
Yeah.
action. So that's the advice that I would give.
Oh, that's great advice. Awesome advice. Do you have question number 2? Do you have any YouTube or podcast shows you recommend our listeners? And listen, if you have one, it can be your
Uh, I really, really like Jerry Norton on YouTube. He provides just so much content, like really, really deep content. Like you really can go on his YouTube channel and start, and it's a wealth of knowledge. And then I really like Lily Thompson. She's probably in her 20s, but over the last 2 years, she's built like $1 million portfolio, and she's shown her journey, like her true journey, not like the glamorous edited journey, and I really enjoy her. So they're both YouTube resources, Lily Thompson and Jerry Norton.
That'll be great. I look forward to looking on both because I haven't heard from either of them. So I'm actually going to go start looking at them as well. All right. So if you had one book that you feel had made the biggest impact on your life, what would that be?
Okay, so The Big Leap is by Gay Hendricks, and it's about mindset. Actually, it has nothing to do with real estate. It's about us accepting love and abundance, and prosperity in our lives, and helping us to not self-sabotage, and showing us all the different areas where we self-sabotage is very interesting. But it's such a powerful book, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite book.
Well, that's also another thing that I haven't read or watched, so I'll be getting The Big Leap today and starting that on some audiobook. Hopefully they got an audiobook. That's my favorite way to consume books.
They do have an audiobook.
Well, I'm going to go grab that. Question number 4. What do you feel has been the secret sauce to you and your husband's journey?
What has been the secret sauce? I'm gonna say one, not giving up. Like, I think that when you hear people, especially like on podcasts, typically people who are on podcasts have accomplished something that can be equated to success.
Yeah.
But because of that, they can seem, maybe you feel like you can't connect with them because they may appear to be on some level that you are not. I would say the only distinguishing quality that sets me apart is that we just didn't give up. It's been so hard for us too. And I felt like our journey was slower than some, like you hear about nowadays. You hear about 20-year-old kids who binge watch YouTube and now are like successful real estate investors, right?
Oh yeah.
So I don't have that journey. The only distinguishing quality is we just didn't give up. We just kept going. So I would say that's what sets us apart. But also this virtual model that we have right now it has been a game changer. Like the systems we put in place and the fact that it's 100% virtual, it's a game changer. So.
And you would have never reached that point, that moment in your career, had you not gone through all the stuff you went through prior. You had to learn what system you wanted, what system worked for you and your business and your family. So y'all listening, if you're trying to be like Tiffany, don't expect to build a system just like Tiffany on day 1, year 1, right? Because that hasn't been her journey.
No.
It takes learning what works, what doesn't work, and it's not like if just because it works for Tiffany doesn't mean it's going to work for you. There's a big difference, because I'm sure there's some parts of that system that are very, it's for you. It's for you and your family and how y'all do your business.
Definitely. I listen, I tried the whole, a lot of investors hire cold callers out of the Philippines, and so did we. And based on our sellers, it just was not a good business model, So you're right. Just because somebody packages it in a certain way, their system, doesn't mean that it's necessarily best for you and your audience.
That's right. Yeah. And by audience, you mean the sellers, right?
The sellers. Yeah. Your sellers, your buyers. That's what I mean by audience.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Last question, Ms. Tiffany. How can our listeners get in touch with you or follow you and your journey?
So I'm most active right now actually on Facebook, which is, and the reason why is Facebook has a ton of mobile home investing groups that are really active and really helpful. I just got some really good information last week on a lender. So I'm active on Facebook. My name on Facebook is Tiffany Carlyle. And then I am on Instagram, and you can follow me there at Tip Carlyle, TIP. And those are the two places that I'm active. On my Instagram page, so sometimes people do want to do consultations with me, and there's a link on my profile on Instagram where if someone ever wanted a consultation, they could go there. But Facebook in general right now, all of the mobile home groups I'm really active in.
All right. Well, we'll absolutely get links in our show notes for this episode with hyperlinks so that they can get right to your Instagram or your Facebook. All right. So what a journey the past hour has been. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Here at the On Purpose Investor, we teach, we preach, and we hopefully instill a sense of hyper-intentionality into all of our listeners. Tiffany, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show today. And we look forward to continuing our relationship and our friendship moving forward. I cannot wait to bring you back on this show when you buy that mobile home park and to hear all the nitty-gritty details about it. We're very thankful that you were here, and I understand Dad is watching the kids right now. Is that right?
Yes.
So please give a big thank you to him for allowing you to come up here and just sharing those home things like me and my wife do. She needs meetings, I go, and vice versa. It's a team effort, right?
Definitely a team effort. Thank you for having me, Eric. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yes, ma'am. All right, y'all. It's been a good one, and we hope to see y'all next week at the On Purpose Investor podcast. And like my wife loves to say, and I love hearing it, you only get one life, so live it purposely. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get all the latest updates. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review wherever you watch our podcast. All right, now go smash that subscribe and follow button for more tips on building your dream life. See you next week, Pathfinders.